Hi Rick, how you doing?
Oh, good morning, Keith. How are you today?
Good, man. I'm doing really, really good, man. Great to see you as always.
Yeah, always,
As
always
you
good
as you can see,
with
I'm
you.
I'm at your house.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if I look to my left, I've got a view, but it's a little different
Yeah.
than the
Oh
snow
man.
last winter.
Yeah. So in the spirit of the NBA playoffs and basketball season, I thought we do, a show inspired by that, on our local Phoenix Suns. So it would be the title of the podcast is How Do You Perform During the Playoffs? And I was thinking about this and I was thinking that, you know, Keith 1.0 performed really good during the regular season. Rick, I could be counted on. I wanted the ball in my hand when the game was on the line. I would hit winners, but then the playoffs started. And then Rick, I made bad choices, a lot of turnovers, giving the game away. And that's just really, a metaphor for when life is smooth sailing and it's, every, gift that you pull out, everything that you open and unwrap is something in it for you that you want. But what happens when you're given a gift and it's something that you don't want in the form of, a challenging life situation, illness, people not being kind to you in their behavior, things like that. How do you perform during those moments? I mean, during your playoffs, do you perform well or are there a lot of turnovers? Do you make a mess of things? And in the past, I made a mess of a lot of things. I'm talking about all kind of turnovers, taking bad shots, blaming people, complaining it's somebody else's fault, just all of that, just totally identified with whatever my mind said I was doing instead of slowing it down, taking a moment, taking space, not making the moment bigger than what it is, and playing a really thoughtful game in which I was able to express kindness, patience, grace, and acceptance, even during some of the most difficult moments. So that's how I've learned to play during the playoffs. What about you, my friend?
Well, before we get to me, I'm curious about how that transition occurred because it's sort of like going from black to white, white to black. It's 180 degrees opposite. So usually when you're in the playoffs, there's like a fall off. You're kind of in a different mode. You're not an automatic pilot anymore. You're really being challenged, and you have to step up your game. So how did it change for you from going from being great and getting all the successes on your side during the regular season, so to speak, and then choking during the playoffs, and then realizing that? How did you shift so that didn't happen anymore?
Well, it's a couple of things. First of all, great question. About how did this come about? Because it wasn't exactly overnight. And what happened was I was aware of the suffering of the losses, the sting of the losses that were self-inflicted. And before, to make a metaphor, I stopped. I used to blame the referees. I used to blame life or people for the hand they dealt me. That's a bad call, ref. That person, it's that person's fault. I would do a lot of that. And you listen to pro sports and they're like, it's not about the referees. Like, play your game. Like play, stick with the game plan. I thought before what I was doing, Rick, was I was like in basketball, right? It's 94 feet. That's the length of the basketball court. They don't raise the hoop any higher. They don't, they don't change the rules mid-game. The rules are all the same. And what I learned is that I was making the game different, but it's not. The way that I dribble the ball, the way the physics of it all works, all that's still the same, but I was making bigger than what it was. I was making this situation and acceptance something different, and it didn't have to be. So what changed was I became clear that I was going to be patient, kind, loving, accepting, no matter what the game time was, whether it or what the season was, whether it was regular season or whether it was the playoffs, I was going to be the same. It was still going to be 94 feet. The hoop is still going to be 10 feet 10 feet from the floor. All that's going to be the same, and I'm going to play the same game, no matter how people do. I don't care what kind of defense they throw at me. I don't care if it's the first 5 minutes of the game or it's the last 5 seconds of the game and we're down by two. It doesn't matter. I'm playing the same game, and I got detached from outcome. I got that the only thing that matters is this moment, this journey. That's it. And so when I made it about that and made it about practicing, learning every single day, it all changed for me. The suffering went away, and it became a game. Like I really enjoyed it. The high stakes part of it went away, and I was able to savor every moment. Whether we came out, and we were on the positive side of the score, or if we were, on the other side of it, that was fine too. So I think that's what changed, Rick. And to sum that up one more time, is that I played the same way regardless, in terms of making it something that it wasn't.
What gets me about that is that, it's not a natural transition, is it? I mean,
Oh,
when you're dealing with a more trying situation, the more natural human thing is to become more reclusive, become more inside of ourselves, closed off from other people. You try to get out, but you're full of anxiety, you're full of judgment about other folks. How did that happen for you? I understand what you did, but was there a spark that all of a sudden said, wait a minute, I've tried all this other stuff and it's not making me feel any better, or I'm not getting better results? What was it that made you go to the side of compassion and detachment from outcome, as opposed to becoming more inward and more hateful, let's say, or more judgmental or more anxious or more blame pointing? That's very interesting to me. What is it that changed?
just having a practice, being surrounded by wise, people like you, really made a difference. I mean, a huge difference, helping me see the big picture. Like this is building on something, not just this situation, but something else. So that was part of it. The other part of it was just the realization that even when I got the outcome that I wanted, that I thought I wanted, it was never enough.
That's
Because
it.
I was always thinking about the next game or the next season or the next situation. It was never enough. Even because my mind was like, oh, when you get what you want, whether it's in a job, a title, a promotion, you fall in love, you marry somebody. Even when you get the things that you think you need or you want, it's never enough. It's always the next thing. And if you're like, well, no, I never thought about it being the next thing. Here's how you know it's the next thing. That if those things went away, you're crushed, you're devastated. So, for example, the title goes away, the promotion, the job, a loved one dies, you go through a divorce and you feel diminished, you feel less than, you feel all of that. Then it was about something outside of yourself. So that was the thing that even when I got what I wanted, it was never enough. So I transitioned or something happened. There was a paradigm shift in me that said, oh, the real goodness, the sustained joy and peace is being in the moment, every moment. And then when I got that, the game kind of just it floated away. Like there was no game. I'm just experiencing whatever I'm experiencing in this moment. There's no win or lose. There's no good and bad. There's no shot made or turnover. I'm just having this experience. And like, why would I want it to be the most amazing experience it can be? And that means even when the shot doesn't go in or when the referee calls a foul and I'm like, no, I didn't touch the guy, whenever all of that, it's all the same. There's no difference. And I think that's when it really shifted, Rick, is when I realized that the more and more I can make it not about outcome and only about this moment, then everything changes. And you taught me that. You taught me about being detached from outcome. And that's where peace was. That's where the real joy is. That's where living really takes place.
Well, thanks, Keith. That's high praise, but it's all you, man. It's not me. One thing I would add, just kind of I guess a little footnote to what you're saying, is that one of the things that we really struggle with is we think that we're sort of helping ourselves when we judge, when we criticize, when we argue with the circumstances that come our way. But the real mastery in life is learning how to surpass those obstacles, and you learn how to do that by trial and error.
Yes.
And we do trial and error very well when we learn our jobs or we learn other skills, like how to drive or play basketball, but we're not very good at it when we're dealing with life issues. I think partly it's because the people around us don't deal with them very well either. And so one of the things that I was interested in learning from you was how that transition came about. For me, it was a situation where nothing was working and I felt increasingly bad. I didn't feel good. I felt like everything was becoming dreadful, full of dread. And it was harder to live and enjoy life. And so I started reading some of the people that I thought might have been on a similar path, who got past it and who were living great lives. And I started with Wayne Dyer, and Deepak Chopra was also early on a very important influence for me. And then I got into the Stoics and read a little bit about how the circumstances are not you, that you react and you own your reaction, but the circumstances are never going to be easy. The circumstances are going to be what they are, and you have to accommodate those and live happily ever after despite them. And a number of other influences as well. But the thing that got me was just the leverage I needed on myself to not want to wallow any longer. I just didn't like myself any longer. And I found myself struggling. I didn't know what else to do. So it was a kind of a thing where you really do need to get a mentor. And the mentor doesn't have to be a live person. It can be a dead author. I mean, Epictetus was what, 300 BC. I mean, his ideas have been around for a long time. So my point is, there's help out there for everyone, whether it's in a book or a friend. And the idea is just to open yourself up to alternative ways of being when the stuff that you're doing now isn't working, isn't giving you happiness, isn't creating a sense of inner peace or a sense of purpose and mission that you want to have. We all do. So I'm really interested, Keith, in that transformation that people go through. And yours is a very interesting path.
Oh, thank you, Rick. It's quite a thing to find the path and get on it. It's another thing to stay on it. And staying on it, a lot of people find it, they see it, oh, the path is there, or they're on it. And then, they get knocked off of it, or they allow themselves to be knocked off by their mind, or whatever the case may be. And we talked about this before, just making it non-negotiable, man. Like I don't ruminate about it, but I'm reminded about what the alternative is all the time. And the alternative is the way that I felt before, with waking up Monday morning, feeling like completely drained, as you mentioned, dreading the day. And that dread becomes a proclamation of what the rest of the day, what that whole day is going to be like in the next few days. I got tired of living like that, man. I got tired of seeing a letter or a phone call come in. And even before I read the contents or listen to what somebody had to say or announcement be made, of feeling like suffering, defeated. I was like, man, I can't live another day like this, not one more. And so that's one of the things that was highly motivating when I first started. Like people will ask me, like, Keith, like, how long you been doing the practice? I said, man, it's been like 7 years. How long, man? Really? It's gonna take 7 years to get there? I'm like, there's nowhere to get. Like I'm not trying to get anywhere. All I'm doing is this moment, trying to be this. And there's so many things that we accept, as that this is going to be a lifetime journey, but we accept them, and we don't think twice about it. But there are other things that we are the exact opposite about. Like, I can't do that. Like, for example, like some people accept that in terms of being, having vitality, with your physical well-being, you're gonna have to work out and you have to eat a certain way, right? They accept it. Other people don't. And there are your results. The way your body feels every day, or your health situation, you don't have to accept it. Like, you can keep letting your body, do what it does when you don't take care of it. That's an option, So, and then there are other things like, okay, most people brush their teeth twice a day. Do you accept that that's what you're gonna do? You don't have to. You can let your teeth fall out, have gum decay. You can do that too. Like you know what I'm saying? Like it all depends on what you accept and what you want. And for me, I want to be game ready. Regular season, playoffs, doesn't matter. I want to be game ready all the time. And it doesn't take effort. Like it doesn't take any effort for me to put a toothbrush in my mouth and brush my teeth. It no longer takes effort for me to get to the gym and work out because I've made it a non-negotiable. And the same thing being this. So when people ask me like, man, 7 years, I'm like, yeah, dude, can you believe it's only been 7 years and I'm here already? Like I suffered for like 40 something. And it only took 7 to get here? Like, are you kidding me right now? I can't believe how fast it happened. That's what I'm thinking. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, wow, this is amazing. This awareness thing and consciousness is everything they said it was. Are you kidding me? There's no going back. That's how I feel every day, Rick. Like it's a choice, man. And it's one that I am gladly making every single day.
I love that, Keith. And I love the fact that, you've converted your discipline into being a physically superior, or being optimal, I guess would be a better word, physically optimal. You've converted that, or you've used a parallel kind of discipline in applying that to your consciousness and applying that to your inner peace. And, it really is kind of science in a way, even though we're dealing with psychological concepts and emotional concepts, which we tend not to believe follow any certain rules. They just sort of crop up, we think. But, if you look at, I think it's Newton's second law, something along the lines of complicated systems, when left to their own devices unattended, devolve into chaos. So my point is that without discipline, whether you're dealing in the physical environment, being an athlete, let's say, or just being someone who wants to be fit, is the same as dealing with your emotional self or dealing with your psychological well-being. There are principles that apply. And to the extent that you're judging and you're critical and you're always arguing with your circumstance, that seems to me to be the kind of chaos that you can avoid by having a disciplined practice that you've just described.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rick. It's liberating, man. I'm like, why would I ever stop? Like, if I get this like all the time, and I mean, it's just like anything else you do. Like the moment that you stop using it, it's just like you said, Rick. It goes with Newton's law. It evolves into chaos. It devolves into chaos, and that's what I am committed to experiencing the exact opposite. Man, I just want as much joy, as much bliss, as much living, as much peace as a person can stand. Like I want it all. So, Rick, thank you for a great show, man. I love you.
You're a living example of how it works the right way, man. Congratulations.
Oh,
I love you, Keith.
I love you too. Thank you.